My HR manager said I was easily replaceable. The board asked for my report. Before we continues, please subscribe and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps this powerful, life-changing story reach the world. The air in the Human Resources office was stale, smelling of cheap coffee and hand sanitizer. I sat across from Linda, the HR director, clutching the folder that contained my performance review and my request for a salary adjustment. I had worked at Apex Logistics for 5 years. I had built their inventory tracking system from scratch. I was the only person in the building who knew how to write the code that kept our global supply chain moving. But looking at Linda's bored expression, you would think I was applying for an entry-level internship. James, Linda sighed, dropping my folder onto her desk with a dismissive thud. We've been over this. The company is tightening its belt. We cannot approve a 20% raise. It is simply not in the budget for your tier. She picked up her pen and clicked it rhythmically, a sound that grated on my nerves. My tier? I asked, keeping my voice calm. Linda, I saved the company $3 million last quarter by optimizing the fuel routes. My tier doesn't exist. I created this role. Linda rolled her eyes. She was new, hired 6 months ago to streamline operations, which mostly meant firing people and replacing expensive coffee with generic brands. She didn't understand the technical side of the business. To her, IT and analytics were just cost centers, drains on the profit margins that she was desperate to widen to secure her own bonus. Look, James, Linda said, leaning forward with a patronizing smile. I know you think you're special. Tech people always do. You think because you know some computer language that you are the gods of the office. She laughed softly. But the reality is, everyone is replaceable. Especially you. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. Replaceable? I repeated. The system I built, Project Atlas, is proprietary. If it goes down, the trucks stop. We have vendors, Linda countered. We have contractors in India and the Philippines who can do what you do for a fraction of the cost. I have a stack of resumes on my desk right now from hungry graduates who would kill for your seat. She gestured to a pile of papers. So, here's the offer. You take a 2% cost of living adjustment, or you can explore those opportunities elsewhere. But don't think you can hold us hostage. I can have a replacement in this chair by Monday. It was a bluff and a bad one. But her arrogance was blinding her. She genuinely believed that complex data architecture was something you could just plug and play. Is that your final word? I asked, standing up. It is, she said, turning back to her computer screen. Close the door on your way out. I walked back to my desk, my mind racing. The open plan office was buzzing with activity. Phones were ringing, sales reps were shouting, and the logistics team was glued to their screens that were running my software. They had no idea that the engine keeping their jobs safe was being managed by a man who had just been told he was worth less than a fresh graduate. I sat down and looked at the code scrolling on my second monitor. Project Atlas was my baby. I didn't react with anger. I didn't yell. I simply opened my email client. I had a draft saved in my personal folder. It was a resignation letter. I had written it months ago just in case, but I never thought I would use it. I updated the date. Effective in 2 weeks. But then I paused. 2 weeks' notice was standard for a standard employee. But Linda had said I was easily replaceable. If I was so easy to replace, surely she didn't need 2 weeks? I decided to play by her rules. I wouldn't quit today. I would wait. The quarterly board meeting was next week. The board of directors, including the intimidating chairman, Mr. Sterling, would be flying in from New York to review the fiscal year's projections. Those projections were generated by Atlas. And only I knew how to run the full diagnostic report they required. The next few days were an exercise in malicious compliance. I did exactly what was in my job description and nothing more. When the server in the warehouse lagged, I submitted a ticket instead of fixing it myself. When the sales VP asked for a custom data pull, I told him to route the request through HR for approval. The office started to slow down. Small glitches appeared. People started to complain. Linda marched to my desk on Thursday morning. James, why is the warehouse complaining about lag? She demanded, her voice loud enough for the whole floor to hear. I don't know, I said, not looking away from my screen. I'm focusing on my core competencies as per my tier. Server maintenance is technically an IT support function, not an analyst function. You should hire a contractor. Linda turned purple. Fix it, she hissed. Or I will write you up for insubordination. I'll get to it when I can, I said blandly. I have a lot of data entry to do. She stormed off, heels clicking furiously. She didn't know that the lag was just a cache issue that took 2 minutes to clear. But without me doing it automatically, the system was choking on its own data. She was starting to see the cracks, but she still thought she could bully them closed. Friday afternoon the email went out. Mandatory meeting, quarterly board review preparation. It was sent to all department heads and key personnel. Usually I was on that list. I checked my inbox. Nothing. I refreshed. Still nothing. Linda had removed me from the invite list. She was trying to freeze me out, to show me that I wasn't needed for the big conversations. I saw the other managers filing into the conference room. Mark from sales, Sarah from logistics, and Dave from accounting. They all looked stressed. They knew the numbers were weird this quarter. The lag and the lack of my custom reports were making them fly blind. I watched them go in through the glass walls. Linda sat at the head of the table looking confident. She was probably telling them she had everything under control. I went to the break room and made a tea. I was enjoying the silence. Then my desk phone rang. I picked it up. James? It was Sarah from logistics, whispering. Are you coming to the meeting? We can't get the projector to display the live dashboard. I wasn't invited, Sarah, I said loudly. You'll have to ask Linda. I hung up. Through the glass I saw Sarah look at Linda. Linda waved her hand dismissively and pointed at the screen, clearly blaming the technology. The weekend passed. Monday arrived, the day of the board meeting. The atmosphere in the office was electric with fear. Mr. Sterling had arrived. His private car was parked out front. He was a legend in the industry, a man who could spot a lie in a spreadsheet from a mile away. He didn't care about excuses, he cared about results. I was at my desk, organizing my personal files, preparing to leave for good. I had decided today was the day. I would hand in my resignation right after the meeting started, leaving Linda to explain why her easily replaceable employee was gone. At 9:30 a.m. the intercom buzzed. James, report to the boardroom immediately. It wasn't Linda's voice. It was Mr. Sterling's executive assistant. The entire office went silent. Heads popped up from cubicles. I stood up, adjusted my tie, and grabbed my laptop. I didn't bring any notes. I didn't need them. The data was in my head. As I walked down the long hallway to the executive suite, I saw Linda standing outside the door, looking pale. She blocked my path. What are you doing here? Linda hissed, grabbing my arm. I didn't call you. Mr. Sterling's assistant did, I said, pulling my arm away. Apparently they need something. Linda's eyes darted around. Listen to me, James. You go in there and you keep your mouth shut. If they ask about the system, you say it's undergoing maintenance. Do not mention the lag. Do not mention the raises. If you embarrass me, I will ensure you never work in this industry again. You already told me I was replaceable, Linda, I smiled. So what does it matter what I say? You have a stack of resumes, remember? Her face twisted in anger, but before she could respond, the heavy oak door opened. The assistant looked out. Mr. Sterling is waiting. Both of you. Linda swallowed hard, put on her fake smile, and walked in. I followed her, feeling a strange sense of calm. The boardroom was impressive. A long mahogany table seated 12 people. The board of directors, men and women in expensive suits, sat looking grim. At the head of the table was Mr. Sterling. He was older, with silver hair and eyes like flint. On the screen behind him was the Atlas login page. It was frozen. Sit down, Sterling commanded. We took the 2 empty seats at the end of the table. We have a problem, Sterling said, his voice deep and rumbling. We are trying to access the Q3 Global Logistics Report. The system is asking for a Level 5 authentication key. Linda, you are the Director of Operations. Put in the key. Linda froze. She didn't even know what a Level 5 key was. Mr. Sterling, she stammered. The system is actually undergoing a scheduled update today. That's why it's locked. We should use the printed PDFs I provided. She gestured to the thin stack of papers on the table. Sterling picked up one of the papers and dropped it. These are basic spreadsheets, Linda. They don't show the real-time margins. I need to see the live data. Unlock the system. I don't have the password with me, Linda lied. It's in my office. I can run and get it. No, Sterling said. He turned his gaze to me. You are James, correct? The senior analyst. Yes, sir, I said. Linda tells us you are merely a support technician, Sterling said, looking at a file in front of him. She says your role is redundant and that we are transitioning to an external vendor next month. I looked at Linda. She was staring at the table, refusing to meet my eyes. Is that what she said, sir? I asked. It is, Sterling nodded. However, when we called the external vendor she recommended, Global Tech Solutions, they had no idea how to interface with our proprietary architecture. They said only the original architect could run the Phoenix protocol to generate the report we need. Sterling leaned forward. Are you the architect, James? I am, sir, I replied. I wrote Atlas from the ground up. Then why, Sterling asked, his voice sharpening, is my HR manager telling me that a monkey could do your job? The room went deadly silent. Someone on the board gasped quietly. Linda turned a shade of gray I didn't know existed. She must have written that in an email or a report that Sterling had accessed. I can't speak to Linda's assessment of my skills, I said diplomatically. But I can speak to the system. Good, Sterling said. Because right now we are blind. We have millions of dollars of inventory in transit and I cannot see where it is. Unlock it. I can do that, I said. But there is a problem. I resigned this morning. Linda's head snapped up. What? You didn't give notice. I drafted it, I said. But since I am easily replaceable, I assumed notice wasn't necessary. Sterling looked at Linda, then back at me. A small smile played on his lips. He enjoyed power plays, provided he wasn't the victim of them. I see, Sterling said. Well, James, for the sake of this meeting, let's assume you are still employed. Can you run the report? I can, I said. But the Phoenix protocol isn't just a button you press. It's a forensic audit. It compares the shipping manifests against the actual fuel costs and billing invoices. It exposes inefficiencies. I looked at Linda. It exposes everything. Linda stood up. Mr. Sterling, this is unnecessary. We don't need a forensic audit. We need the sales figures. James is just trying to make himself look important. I have the sales figures right here. She held up a USB drive. This is the data we prepared. Sterling ignored her. Run the protocol, James. I opened my laptop and connected it to the main server cable. I typed in the command line. admin_override. auth_key Oppenheimer. The screen behind Sterling flickered. The Atlas logo spun and then the dashboard exploded with data. Live maps, moving trucks, fuel gauges and financial tickers. The board murmured in appreciation. This, Sterling said, pointing at the screen. This is what we paid for. Why haven't I seen this before? Because, I said, Linda insisted we use the simplified PDFs to streamline the meetings. Simplified. Sterling scoffed. It's neutered. I typed another command. Now running the Phoenix audit, I announced. A progress bar appeared. 10%, 40%, 80%. The screen turned red. A large alert box popped up. Discrepancy detected. Vendor billing. What is that? Asked a board member, a woman with glasses. It's an anomaly, I explained. The system tracks what we should be paying for shipping versus what is actually leaving our accounts. There is a mismatch. How much? Sterling asked. $1.2 million over the last 6 months, I read from the screen. The room erupted. Over $1 million? Sterling roared. Where is it going? I clicked on the alert. The data drilled down. It appears to be going to a vendor listed as Prime Consulting Group for optimization services. Sterling turned to Linda. Who is Prime Consulting Group? I don't recall approving that vendor. Linda was trembling. It must be a glitch. James's code is faulty. I told you he was incompetent. The system is broken. The system is not broken, I said calmly. It matches the bank transfers. The money left our account. And looking at the metadata, I typed quickly. The invoices from Prime Consulting were approved by Stevens. I looked up. That's you, Linda? Linda Stevens, the HR manager. The room turned to ice. You approved over $1 million in consulting fees to an outside vendor? Sterling asked, his voice quiet and dangerous. While denying this man a raise? I needed help. Linda cried, desperation taking over. The department was overwhelmed. Prime Consulting is a legitimate firm. They helped with the restructuring. Restructuring? Sterling asked. You mean firing people? You paid $1 million to fire people? James, Sterling said, not looking away from Linda. Pull up the registration details for Prime Consulting Group. I can't do that from here, sir, I said. That's external data. Use the browser, Sterling commanded. Project it. I opened a web browser and searched the business registry. It took 30 seconds. Prime Consulting Group. Registered agent, Todd Stevens. Todd Stevens, I read aloud. Is that a relation, Linda? Linda sank into her chair. She looked like she had shrunk 3 sizes. It's my husband, she whispered. The silence in the room was deafening. It wasn't just incompetence anymore. It was embezzlement. She had been funneling company money to her husband's shell company while cutting costs by denying raises and firing staff. Security, Sterling said into the intercom. Come to the boardroom. 2 large men in uniforms entered instantly. Escort Mrs. Stevens to her office to collect her purse, and then remove her from the building. Do not let her touch a computer. Linda stood up, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Sterling, please? It was a loan. We were going to pay it back. James set me up. He knew. I knew nothing, I said. Until the board asked for my report. They dragged her out. Her screams of, I'm the victim, echoed down the hallway until the heavy doors clicked shut. The board members looked at each other, stunned. They had just witnessed the destruction of a career in real time. Sterling took a deep breath and adjusted his tie. He turned to the screen, which was still flashing the red discrepancy alert. Turn it off, James. We've seen enough. I closed the laptop. The screen went black. Well, Sterling said, clasping his hands. That was illuminating. He looked at me. James, you said you resigned this morning? I intended to, sir, I said. I felt my contributions were not valued, and I was told I was easily replaceable. I think we have definitively proven that you are not replaceable, Sterling said. In fact, you seem to be the only person who knows what is actually going on in this company. He looked at the other board members. They nodded in agreement. We need to clean this mess up, Sterling said. We need to recover the funds, audit the entire HR department, and fix the morale issues that Linda clearly caused. He looked me in the eye. I need a director of operations who understands the systems and has integrity. I don't want an MBA who hires their spouse. I want the architect. Are you offering me the job? I asked, stunned. I am, Sterling said. Effective immediately. We will match your salary request. Actually, we will double it. And we will add a performance bonus based on the savings from this audit. I thought about it. I thought about the stress, the late nights, the disrespect. But then I looked at the system I had built. I looked at the potential to actually run things right without someone like Linda standing in the way. I have conditions, I said. Sterling raised an eyebrow. Go on. I want full autonomy over the tech stack, I said. No more budget cuts on critical infrastructure. And I want to rehire the 3 analysts Linda fired last month. They were good workers and we need them. Sterling smiled. It was a genuine smile this time. Done. Anything else? Yes, I said. I want a new coffee machine in the break room. The generic stuff is terrible. The board members chuckled. The tension broke. Consider it done, Sterling said. I walked out of that meeting a different person. I wasn't just the computer guy anymore. I was the director. I walked back to my desk, my old desk, to pack up. But not to leave. I was moving to the corner office. The news of Linda's arrest spread like wildfire. The police were waiting for her in the lobby. Apparently, Prime Consulting hadn't paid its taxes either, so she was facing charges on multiple fronts. The office mood shifted instantly. The fear evaporated, replaced by a buzzing excitement. Sarah from logistics came up to me. Is it true? She asked. Is Linda gone? Are you the boss now? It's true, I said. And Sarah? You can order those new scanners you wanted. The budget is approved. She looked like she wanted to hug me. Thank you, James. Thank you. I spent the next week unraveling Linda's mess. It was worse than we thought. She had cut corners everywhere. Insurance policies, safety protocols, software licenses. It took months to fix, but with the team back and morale high, we did it. A month later, I received a letter from a competitor. It was a job offer. They had heard about the Atlas system and wanted to poach me. The salary was astronomical. I sat in my new office looking at the view of the city holding the letter. Linda's voice echoed in my head. Everyone is replaceable. In a way, she was right. If I left, the company would survive. They would find someone else. But they wouldn't find someone who cared as much as I did. And they wouldn't find someone who knew where the digital bodies were buried. I shredded the offer letter. I was exactly where I belonged. I had built this place in code and in spirit. And now I was going to run it. I typed a command into my laptop, bringing up the live dashboard. All green. No lag. No discrepancies. Just efficiency. The intercom buzzed. It was my new assistant. James, Mr. Sterling is on line 1. He wants to know if you're free for golf this weekend. I smiled. Tell him I'm busy, I said. I have a system update to run. I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking softly. The office outside was humming, a productive, happy hum. I looked at the empty spot on the wall where Linda's Employee of the Month plaque used to hang. It was gone, replaced by a whiteboard covered in complex equations and future plans. I wasn't replaceable. I was the foundation. And the board finally knew it. I took a sip of the new premium coffee and got back to work. The report was finished, but the mission was just beginning. The following Monday felt like the first day of a new era. The oppressive gray cloud that Linda had cast over the office had lifted, replaced by a bright, energetic buzz. My first official act as director wasn't a technical one, it was a human one. I sat in my new corner office holding a list of names, the 3 analysts Linda had fired to cut costs, while she was funneling money to her husband. I picked up the phone and dialed the first number. It was Sanjay, a brilliant coder who had been let go 2 weeks prior. Hello? His voice sounded tired, likely from the stress of job hunting. Sanjay, it's James from Apex, I said. There was a long silence. James? Look, I already returned my badge. I don't have anything else. I'm not asking for your badge, I said, smiling. I'm asking if you want your desk back. And a 10% raise. I heard him drop the phone. Are you serious? He stammered. Linda is gone, I explained. And we have a lot of work to do fixing her mess. I need the best team I can get. By noon, all 3 analysts had accepted. Watching them walk back through the doors looking relieved and valued was better than any line of code I had ever written. The team was whole again. While we rebuilt the team, the legal fallout of Linda's actions continued to unfold. 2 weeks after her arrest, a team of forensic accountants arrived to comb through the company's finances. They needed my help to trace the specific digital pathways Linda had used to hide the payments to Prime Consulting. We sat in the conference room, the same room where she had tried to silence me, and I projected the transaction logs onto the screen. It was pathetic, really. She hadn't even used sophisticated encryption. She just relied on the fact that no one ever checked the logs. She listed the payments as server maintenance, one investigator noted, shaking his head. But the timestamps show the transfers happened at 2 a.m. on Saturdays. I nodded. Auto-scheduled. She said it and forgot it. The investigator looked at me. You know, if you hadn't built that audit protocol, she might have gotten away with this for years. Most systems wouldn't catch a vendor name match like that. It was a sobering thought. Linda had built a house of cards on the assumption that I was incompetent. Her arrogance was the flaw in her design. Later that afternoon, the news broke that her husband, Todd, had turned state's witness against her to avoid jail time. Her betrayal of the company had ended with her own family betraying her. With the investigation behind us, we faced our biggest challenge yet, the holiday rush. Historically, this was the time when Apex struggled the most. In previous years, under Linda's cost-saving measures, we were always understaffed and the servers would crash from the volume of orders. This year, I was determined to change the narrative. I gathered the team, Sanjay, Sarah, and the rest, and laid out the plan. We weren't just going to maintain the system, we were going to optimize it in real time. I deployed a new feature in Atlas called Dynamic Load Balancing. Instead of routing trucks through the cheapest tolls, the AI calculated the fastest routes based on live traffic and weather data. It cost a little more upfront, but it promised faster deliveries. The board was nervous. James, Mr. Sterling called me on a Tuesday. Are you sure about this? Fuel costs are up 5%. Trust the code, I told him. Speed equals volume. We'll make it up on turnover. It was a gamble. For 3 days, I watched the monitors, coffee in hand, praying the algorithm held. By Friday, the numbers came in. We hadn't just survived the rush, we had shattered our delivery records. The 5% fuel increase resulted in a 30% increase in completed deliveries. The gamble had paid off. The victory during the holiday rush didn't go unnoticed. The following week, Mr. Sterling visited the office personally. He didn't come with an entourage of lawyers this time. He came with a bottle of champagne and a thick envelope. He walked straight into my office, bypassing the formalities. You were right, he said simply, placing the bottle on my desk. The efficiency report is the best I've seen in 20 years. He sat down and slid the envelope toward me. Linda treated you like a liability. I want to make sure you know you are an asset. I opened the envelope. Inside wasn't just a bonus check, though that was there and it was substantial, it was a stock option grant. This vests over 4 years, Sterling explained. It makes you a partner, James. Not just an employee. If the company wins, you win. I looked at the document. It was validation in its purest form. Thank you, Mr. Sterling, I said. I won't let you down. He smiled, standing up to leave. You already haven't. You saved the ship when the captain was trying to drill holes in the hull. Just keep doing what you're doing. It was late on a Friday evening. The office was quiet, bathed in the soft blue glow of the server lights. Most of the team had gone home to their families, enjoying the weekend without the dread of emergency calls or angry emails. I walked through the rows of cubicles, checking the monitors one last time. The dashboard for Project Atlas was humming along perfectly, all green, no red alerts. It was a beautiful sight. I stopped at my old desk, now occupied by a bright young intern we had just hired. I remembered sitting there, feeling small, feeling unheard, listening to Linda tell me I was nothing. She had tried to erase me to make me feel small so she could feel big. But in the end, her words had been the fuel I needed to burn down her lies. I wasn't easily replaceable. No one who cares about their work is. I walked back to my office and picked up my bag. I took one last look at the whiteboard covered in plans for next year. We were going to expand into drone delivery logistics. It was going to be hard, complicated work. And I couldn't wait. I turned off the lights, locked the door, and walked out into the cool night air. The report was filed, the system was safe, and for the first time in 5 years I was exactly where I was supposed to be.